Hey community, before we get into this new month, which will be fully under the light of Matrescence, we wanted to let you know that during the summer, we reached two goals that Eva and I had set for ourselves for this podcast. We surpassed the 500 followers on all the podcast platforms combined and over 10,000 downloads of our episodes. I mean, this is pretty amazing. And this is where you can come in again to help us out. We have high hopes for the rest of the year and we want to hit 1,000 followers and 15,000 downloads by the end of the year. This means we have 4 full months left on our hands to achieve this goal. And how can you support us? You can help us by sharing your favorite episodes with your community, making sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram under Damn Parenting Podcast, and make sure that you give us a rating on any podcast platform that you subscribe. Make sure that the word is spread within your community. And if you have enjoyed any of the topics we've covered in over our 100 episodes, go and hit the 5-star rating and comment if you can. Get on YouTube and hit the subscribe button and share. Make sure that we get into the conversation of your WhatsApp groups, your Facebook groups, the events that you're at, or with any casual conversation you're having with another parent. Thank you so much for all the support that you've given us so far. And we aim to continue our mission on shedding light on the Dutch medical system, the parenting journey we all go through, talking about the hidden awkward topics many refuse to do, and give voice to our community so you know where you can get information and helpful tips. Thank you so much for your support, and let's jump right into the next helpful episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Damn Parenting, your English-speaking parenting podcast from Amsterdam. And we are your hosts, Maren and
Eva.
And this is after the summer break. We have recycled a couple of episodes for you, which you probably have noticed. But now we are back with fresh content and we're tackling the new month, September. And September is all going to be about Matrescence, because you know this from us. We have dipped a little bit into this topic and we have discovered our passion for it. So we thought, let's dedicate a whole month to it. And as you know, we like to take a 360 angle. So we again have brought amazing voices from the community, experts to the table, which we will be discussing this topic with. And the first person to kick off this series after our book club, where we will be talking about the book Matrescence, is Harriet. Welcome back to the pod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for spending the time with us, because we have, and I think this is so cool, we have talked to Harriet over numerous times and numerous months now. She was still pregnant, preparing for pregnancy, and then we did a 3-month check-in, and now this is the 6-month check-in with Harriet. We want to hear from her how her experience as a mother, a new mom, has been growing into the whole role of Matrescence, her experiences, her changes, all the stuff that she undergoes and is still in the midst of it, I assume. So we just want to have a light check-in and hear all the goods, because both Eva and our kids are starting school. So this is a little ways away for us, since we were in the 6 months. So we were just talking like, oh, when do they sit? When do they crawl? Is this already happening? So why don't you give us the juice? How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I am home alone, which doesn't happen very often. That's very exciting for me, because my little boy has started daycare in the last month.
Wow.
Which has been an absolute revelation. And I've had a really positive experience. In case anybody here is having any wobbles about sending their kids off to hang out with somebody else, it's been so smooth. It's been so easy. It's been amazing. So I'm feeling really good. He only goes 2 days a week. And I'm feeling really good because I have that time back for myself again, which I'm loving.
Enjoy it now.
Weird, right? Yeah, enjoy it. But it's weird because you're sitting and like, excuse me, what? And then I guess this is the first time where you realize this development that you have undergone through, like, where is Harriet? So, okay, I'm by myself. So what did I like? What did I enjoy? What was that again?
The first day, he only went for like 2 hours on his first day. And even that, I'm like, how do I spend time? Like, what do I do? What do you mean I'm just here by myself? It's so bizarre. I was not expecting to feel so lost without him, I must say.
And at the same time, when they're back, you're like, okay, when is the next break gonna be?
Yeah. Like, because he goes on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday, I'm like, what do you mean I have to look after him by myself? What, all day long? What is this?
It's nice when you tap into this, a little bit of this village energy, right? When you see, oh, we're not meant to be to do this alone. So
Yeah.
now I'm sharing the load. And then it's all of a sudden back to, yeah, but we're living like in this modern village where it's not really like a village. So you are still responsible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things I took away from the book from Lucy Jones. They were talking about, like, because we live in the Western world, we're meant to have all of this, but actually the reality is we don't have this village, and it's a complete freaking lie. And especially as expats, not living with their friends and family and everyone else that we could have relied on, I think that for me was quite paramount, I think, when it came to this. Have you actually found your village? Because you actually are technically a part of the village because you are a postpartum doula. So therefore you actually know anyone and everyone. But now you're on the flip side with a 6-month-old, and it's a case of, how have you figured out your village?
Yeah, that's a great question about my village. So I think we're quite lucky because being a postpartum doula, I already know so many people with kids. So I've had lots of like support and encouragement and kind messages from people. But also my husband's Dutch. So our mother-in-law does live down the road, which makes a big difference on those days where we are really like, oh my gosh, we just need an hour to ourselves. We had it a couple of weekends ago and she's like, no worries, came, picked him up. They went out for a little walk so we could have a breather. So in that respect, I'm really lucky. And I feel like I already had a bit of a village before I had my baby, which is not the normal experience, I don't think.
And have you used them? Like, how have you used them, should I ask?
How have I used them? I don't know. How have I?
Okay, this is, I mean, we all know your very good friend was there for you for the birth and she's able to pop by, which I think is always an amazing opportunity. But have, for example, if you had any lactation issues where you're like, oh, I know who to call, or if I had any food issues, I know who to call, or I already know everything about the GGD and the consultatiebureau and everything else.
Yeah, totally. Because having those connections, it's so easy to be like, I didn't have any huge problems with breastfeeding. I didn't have any huge problems with sleep. But just when you have that little like niggle of doubt in your brain, it's so nice just to be able to text someone who has that expertise. Just be like, this is what I think is going on. What do you think? Or other people that I know have been through it themselves. They've had a really rough time with something. And for instance, sleep, I know people that really had to try so many different things. So I could be like, oh, how did you tackle this issue? Or did you experience this? Which has been really helpful because something that has surprised me actually is how the self-doubt starts to trickle in, even though I feel like on paper I have a good understanding of babies and infants and what they need and what's normal and what's not normal. But still, when you're the one that's responsible for making those decisions, that little tiny little voice in your head does like pick up every now and then, doesn't it? Be like, are you doing the right thing? Is this normal? Should he be waking this much overnight, etc.?
Yeah, because when you are giving this advice, you can still lean then on this assurance that at the end of the day, this other person is responsible to make that choice. But now you are that person who can advise yourself, but then needs to make the choice. But one thing that I have noticed with your journey already, and this is something that I admire so much looking out, like from the outside onto it, that I have never seen anything of you where you were trying to fix something. So you were like aware of, oh, this is like the sleep, like you were very aware of certain things that you had shared on Instagram, but it was never the thing of, oh, how can I fix it? How can I fix it? But it was always more the
embracing
the voice, the embracing of it is happening and I'm flowing with it. And I know it's normal and I don't have to fight it. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to change anything because I know this is normal. And I admire this so much of you already looking at this from the outside of, wow, she really is so in tune with this. And still you can have your insecurities and your doubts and all that. But that was really one big thing where if you don't have all this knowledge or you don't have this reassurance and this expertise and also this confidence in yourself, then you think, oh, this is a problem. I need to fix it. But for you, it was, this is normal. This is the development. I know about this. Equally, when we talked about the whole roommate phase that you and your husband went through, it wasn't something where you were shocked or like, oh my God, oh, this is a problem. This is a problem. But you knew it's happening. I'm going to be sitting here. I'm going to wait. And eventually it's going to resolve itself. And I have admired this, and I still admire this so much about you, the whole, just this, what's the
reality
English word? yeah, but instilling like this whole, like your perception of this and your way how to go into this.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think it's a big thing. Like when you have your first, you feel so lost and you feel all this pressure and you want to like do it and all this panic because you don't know what is and isn't normal. And then people who have like a second or even a third, you have this extra level of confidence. And because of my work, most people that hire me, it's that they're having their second baby because you were going for the first. You're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And then when you have your second one, you're like, you know what help you need. And being able to be alongside people like that has really helped me because it's made me feel a lot more relaxed of like, okay, this is just what we're doing right now. This is not my life forever. And I think, yeah, I mean, I still have those moments that I'm like, oh my God, am I ever gonna like get a good night's sleep again? Are we ever gonna like be able to just go out for the evening, me and my husband? But having seen, you know, I've seen people go on their journey from pregnancy, giving birth, being like deep in the depths of postpartum to coming back up again. So I'm like, okay, I know that we'll get back up there. This is just for now. And also everybody talks about how fast, and it flies by. I can't believe I have a 6-month-old baby. That's absolutely insane. So I also want to embrace every second of it, because in a year's time, I'll be looking back and it will feel like a lifetime ago. So I want to be present and enjoy all of those, even the frustrating moments like the 4 a.m. wake ups. I still want to just embrace them and be really present.
That was actually one thing I wanted to ask. You just mentioned there about the sleep deprivation. I was just wondering, do you think that is the link to your self-doubt? Is there a correlation there for yourself?
There's definitely something to be. So when I came on this podcast and I was 3 months postpartum, my baby was sleeping through the night. And I think it's quite a common, I hear it more often, that the first few months of life, they sleep really well. This is our experience. And then around 3-4 months, because of that sleep progression, it all changes. So in the last couple months, we've been getting up. He wakes up like 4 or 5 times a night, which to me isn't really a problem. But there's definitely this idea that by a certain age, they should be sleeping through. They should be getting their 12, doing the 7 to 7. You should have night weaned because I feed him to sleep. You should have night weaned. And even though emotionally, I know that this is what's right for my family, it's still that, I don't want to say logical part of my brain, but maybe more like analytical part of my brain that's like, no, that's wrong. You should be sleeping through the night. Yeah, you shouldn't be feeding him. You should be taking all these steps to make sure he sleeps through the night. And that's so, if I look internally, I know that I'm doing the right thing. And this is how I want to parent my baby. And me and my husband are like 100% on the same page about it. But you go on social media, and this is the downside of doing what I do, is that I follow so many people on social media. I have so many conversations with other people whose babies have done different things. And then you get that little niggle that's like, oh, but what if I did stop feeding him to sleep and he did sleep through the night? What if?
That's a big what if.
Yeah.
That's those parallel lives.
Yeah, it's a big what if. And yeah, you never know what you could, if you would do something differently, you never know what the implications could be.
One of the things, so this topic, this episode really is about the whole Matrescence, and going back to the Lucy Jones book we had on Monday was a case of we want to look really at the psychological, physiological significance of becoming a mother and how it affects your brain, the endocrine system, cognition, immunity, the psyche, the microbiome, and the sense of self. That's a whole mouthful, I know. But so, I mean, even in sense of self, you've just already said these shoulds, am I doing it right? I mean, these kind of things also are really impacting on our sense of self. And the fact that you identified and you've been able to also reach out to your mother-in-law, I think is like a huge round of applause. I still don't reach out to my mother-in-law because I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah, there's definitely this idea. It's such a strong idea of like, just because we're mums, we should do everything, and your child should be like the center of your universe, and you should put all of your like wants and needs at the bottom of the list because everything for your baby should be at the top. And that's just something that's the idea that I feel like we've been sold our whole lives. And I don't buy into that personally. But it's really hard to break those patterns. when that's what we've been seeing, especially in this age of social media where not only do we see, so I get all these videos of like at 6 months, your baby should be doing XYZ, and these are the activities you should be doing to encourage these skills, and they should be sleeping like this, they should be eating like this, and these are all the foods that you should be preparing. But also your house should be like spotless, and you should look put together, and you should have a nice outfit on, and your hair should be washed, and it's just too much.
I mean, that's even for a non-mother on a Friday morning.
Yeah. Right?
But it's great that you have that realization, and you, like you said, you don't buy into this. And at the same time, this is a choice that you make. And at the same time, it might feel alone or lonely at times because you are doing something different than a lot of other people, and that takes a lot of courage because you don't have anyone to lean on, but you like kind of are wandering around and be like, all right, I made this choice, I'm walking by myself, who wants to join? Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, that's why I like to share stuff on my Instagram story about like the wake ups, like the feeding to sleep, as you can tell, is a big topic for me right now, because every time, or like bed sharing, every time I put something up, someone will message me and be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. And you really feel like you're so isolated and you're so alone when you're doing something slightly different than the way that we should, quote unquote, should be raising babies.
How has it been with you? Because you're a foodie. I want to know, how have you been nourishing yourself? Like, has there been more of I have to do this for my body now because this is what my body needs? Or is it pre-planned in your head because you're like, this is my job. I know people need to take care of themselves by doing the X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a struggle feeding myself, just like finding, because you want to feed yourself something nutritious, there's so many steps. You have to think about what it's going to be. You have to do the shopping, think about what you need, think about how you're going to get it, go and do it. And then also cooking and preparing. So it has been for months like 3 to 5 that kind of any sense of taking care of myself nutritionally just went right out the window, and we were definitely just eating to survive. And then I started to notice in myself, like, I was really, at the end of the day, I was really craving like meat. I was like, and in the middle of the summer when it's like 30 degrees, I'm like, I just want to eat some beef stew. And then I was like, I think that's protein. I think that you are low on protein. So yeah, I've just been making a bit more of an effort the last month, and I'm feeling a lot better in myself. But again, that's because he started daycare. So that's my plan for tomorrow. He'll be off at daycare all day. I don't have any work to do. So I'm going to go out shopping. I'm going to batch cook some food and stick it in the freezer. It was so hard to keep up with taking care of myself when my husband went back to work, and it was just the two of us at home all day, every day.
Yeah, because you have all these plans, and then you plan everything, and then you're like, okay, I'm ready to go. Oh, it's feeding time. Oh, and we have another diaper, and then it's 3 hours later, and you're like, didn't I want to go shopping 3 hours ago, and I still have to cook? All right, let's just order. So that's like the slippery slope that
a lot of that, yeah. And they can't entertain themselves.
No.
Mine still can't.
No.
So how was your experience? No, so you are one of the very few people who know about Matrescence, who know about this process, who are aware of this. Has this changed anything about your development or your view on things, or are you watching your own developments with this lens on it, or how is that for you, being aware of this whole concept?
Yeah, I had a chat with my husband about it yesterday because I knew I was doing this podcast recording, and I just had to sit down and do some like brainstorming because like surface level, nothing has really changed. I'm not someone who likes to be out and about a lot. Like same with my husband, we're not like travelers or adventurers. We're just like sofa people. I always like to go to bed early and just have a nice, slow, easy life. So on the surface, not much has really changed. But if I dig in a bit deeper, I think what I've surprised myself with is actually how relaxed I've been, even though I just said you've got that bit of self-doubt. But I'm quite an organized person. I like routine. I like to feel like on top of things. But I've really been able to like lean into the chaos in a way that I never, especially if I look back at the first few weeks of parenting, I was always like, okay, it's chaos now because he's a few weeks old. By 4 months, we'll probably have fallen into a routine. We'll have like a nap schedule, all this stuff. Honestly, as he's gotten older, we've got less of a schedule. It's gone more out there. It's gotten more chaotic as he's gotten older. So that's been a big thing, a big change for me, because I am not someone who can really be described as easygoing. I'm pretty controlling. So the fact that I've really been able to let that go and tap into things that tap into my gut. I've been able to tap into my gut feelings and follow my intuition. That's actually surprised me a bit. I think I thought I'd be more controlling.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the brain plasticity at work. This is exactly what we talk about when we talk about matrescence, and this whole capacity and ability of your brain exactly doing what you just said, letting go of old patterns, restructuring, leaning into new ideas, getting comfortable with that, getting a new sense about things, getting new aspects of you where you were so sure about, this is one very big part of my personality and this is what is a very big driver within me, and then all of a sudden I need to change that, or it is been changed by something else, and how can I not try to hold on to that and make it work, because I think this is me, and if I let that go I'm losing myself. But really lean in what you said into this new development of, all right, I'm curious. And this is also a word that I wanted to use when I was talking about this earlier, how I admire your attitude, is I also love your curiosity about this, because it looks to me like from the outside, you're curious about this. Oh, interesting. There's chaos. How am I reacting to this? And not this initial of like, shit, I need to hold back on this. I need to really control it because this is what I know. This is what I am. This is what I'm doing. But all right, how can I lean into this? How can I make myself comfortable with it? How can I relearn something? How can I learn something new? What am I seeing? What am I observing? And that is very cool for me to see, like from the outside. Oh, so this is how it looks like. This is what this person does now. This is how it is at play.
Yeah, it's a lesson to be learned, because there's, like, again, on social media, all these ideas of like the routine and the nap schedule and all that kind of stuff, and even down to like what your bedtime routine should be. But like every single baby is different. They all have different temperaments. They all have different things that they like. So some, children need to have a really like slow and calm bedtime routine. Others need to like get all the wriggles out, and it's quite an adjustment to take a step back and just observe and be like, okay, and let them kind of lead the way a bit of like what their preference is, what their personality is, what works for them. And then also you of course have to marry that with like what works for you within your household, and then you can come out somewhere else. So like, yeah, some babies are super routined and regular. Mine is not, and that's okay.
Can I ask you about your brain, as it were? the disorganized, organized. I'm just wondering beforehand, just as a woman in general, we're quite multitasking kind of people. We've got our heads on everything else. But now 6 months in, do you notice now that there's more weight on you with more things to keep juggling up?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it kind of comes back to what I said earlier of when he's at daycare and I'm at home by myself, I don't know what to do with myself. And it's not just that I've forgotten what I like to do. It's also because I feel like I can't switch off, because my brain is so full of information. And okay, it's a lot better than it was, the first few months they're feeding so regularly and they sleep so often and their wake windows are so small that it did feel almost suffocating at certain points. And we're definitely past that point now. But still, I'm sitting here and I'm half like listening for his cries, and he's not even in the house. It's so hard to really, really switch your brain off. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, that will probably be the case for many years, potentially forever.
Probably.
Yeah, that's the mental load. Yeah.
But how are you feeling with the aspect of like, okay, so you're feeding, and then there's the solids, obviously, because you've hit 6 months, and then you've got your diapers. And did you buy the diapers? Did you get them in, or did you forget to update them? Are you still with your last packet? And all these questions that are coming in over one little topic, and then you go on to, the milk. Did I clean those bottles? I can't remember. Is your brain compounded in this disorganization and repetitive questioning yourself?
I think in my brain, I still feel quite organized, and my husband's really helpful. I guess it's kind of the answer to that. So if we almost ran out of nappies. I had no idea that we'd almost ran out of nappies, and he was the one that was on it. And also he'd figured that we needed a bigger size. So he was like, okay, let's look at where they're cheapest and ordered some. I think that is what helps me feel organized and on top of things, having someone that you can rely on when you drop the ball.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you have a partner, then you should embrace this attitude of we are a team. I didn't have this child by myself. I pushed it into the world by myself, but now here we are. And that's also the same process. I mean, we talk about matrescence, but then at the same time, also other caregivers go through that process themselves. So have you also seen changes in that depending on the time, how much your husband spends with the baby? Have you seen changes in his behavior and his reactions or his demeanor with it?
Yeah, I don't want to say he's had a hard time, but he's someone whose love language is really like helping out. What's the one that's like was helping?
Serving.
That's it. His love language is really acts of service. So that's something that he found so hard at the beginning because he could see that I was like tired and fed up with breastfeeding and all of this stuff. And he really wanted to step in and do something to help. And it's been a process of him of accepting that actually he can't help out with these things. There are some like tangential, like, you know, he can make sure the bottles are clean. That helps with breastfeeding. And he can like bring me a glass of water. That helps with breastfeeding. But he can't take away any of that weight. So he's been through this whole process of accepting that and just like relaxing and just like being present, because that's what I need more than anything else from him. Is I just need him to kind of be there, like I said, catch a ball if I've dropped it. So I think for him it's definitely been a big learning process for him.
I think that's quite unified in a lot of ways, but I think men react very differently with different frustrations, or then they sometimes can step away because they feel useless. And there's different alleyways that men can kind of go down, I guess. So I mean, it is down to a communication on both partners, I think, when it comes to that aspect, to be able to hopefully channel what you're actually needing and how they can help. And I think we have discussed that previously. I think even you said, get your partner, like as you say with breastfeeding, make sure the snacks are in, make sure you get what my favorite things in from the shops or whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely had a lot of feelings of uselessness at the beginning. I think even now a little bit because of what I do and because I feel like I am quite self-assured when it comes to taking care of a baby, whereas he's someone that's never like changed a nappy before or held a baby. So he's got all those anxieties, and then I feel relaxed. And like I said, his mum comes and helps every now and then. She also worked in a daycare, so she's really confident around babies. So there were certainly moments in the beginning that I think he just felt like he didn't know where his place was. And he's got these like two very strong women in his life that are very confident. And how is he going to fit into that? And how is he going to create his own bond with the baby? And I think that's the thing that a lot of dads struggle with, because obviously when you're the one who's been pregnant, you already have that sort of bond or relationship. And a really big thing that helped him was from like 3 weeks old, our baby would not go in the pram. He wasn't having any of it, which was so annoying. But we just we already had a buckle carrier. And so Dave would just have him in the carrier. And that was their moment to bond. And yeah, that's really changed. That's made him feel so much more relaxed. Once you have that bond, he can start figuring it out for himself, finding what his place is, what his own relationship to the baby is, finding what our new relationship is to each other. He started feeling a lot more confident, and that has really shown in the last couple of weeks, actually.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I think those baby carriers, I think, are a real blessing for men, especially to be able to feel the weight on their own kind of shoulders in front. And no matter what the age.
Yeah, exactly. And have his own thing that he can do.
Yeah, exactly. Just to skip into like a different vague system, but it's kind of like, because Elena was on back in April where we talked about matrescence, and she came up with a very long-winded, all these different varieties of ways that matrescence can actually change women. And with things like, political, like, socio, like even sexual, or, all these spiritual, like there was all these names that she was able to give to us. For example, with I spoke about this briefly with my husband when he asked, "Oh, what are you recording today?" And I was saying, "Oh, it was about this." And I was trying to explain to him about Elena's, her explanation. And he's like, "What do you mean political?" I was like, "Well, yeah, political, because when you have kids, now you're investing in your children's future and you want the best for them. You want the teachers to get fair pay. You want the playgrounds to be built. You want green areas. And he was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Do you think there's a shift in your mind that way, or your partner's as well? Or do you think it's a case of this is something that will grow into, or is it because you've always been, you've been dueling for so many years already that it's a case of this was already anyway something in your life?
Yeah, especially when it comes to politics, I'd say we're both quite political people and quite strongly like left wing. So always been very pro, good salaries for teachers, support for lower income families, like good affordable housing, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like we've kind of always had that in us, and it hasn't hugely changed since we've had a baby. For myself, certainly, maybe for Dave, it's been a bit more eye-opening. But yeah, and certainly having worked in this sector, you start to notice those things, like how important daycare workers are, how important having those like socioeconomic structures to support all households and all families.
Yeah, no, it was just my husband's Dutch as well. And it was one of those things that he just really was like, why political? And when I said it to him, it was like, oh yeah. And he's always been left wing as well. And it was just that thing that that thing that you're like, oh, I'm going to push a little bit more. I'm now invested in my future. And like, that's become more prevalent to him, he noticed, since we got pregnant, I guess. So that was just always something that Elena said that I think both myself and Maren were like, yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, of course, our views are going to change. Any experiences will change any kind of views we have.
Yeah. And I've been saying for years, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'm eligible for a Dutch passport. And without a Dutch passport, obviously I can't vote in the general election. So that's something that I've been saying for years. If I'm going to have children here, I need to be able to have a say. I need to be able to have some input on who's running the country and the kind of decisions that they're going to make. That's something that is really important to me.
Makes sense.
And how has your perception in the world from society changed? Did you notice any difference now that you are a mother and are seen when you are with your baby in a public space, like in society? Have you noticed any shifts there from others, how they perceive you or how you think they perceive you? And then it leads to questioning yourself, or like how is that whole interaction with the society at larger been?
Yeah, how that you think they perceive you is an interesting one, because I think we've all been there, like pushing your pram around Albert Heijn with a screaming baby, and you are so sure that you're being judged and you're so sure that everyone thinks you're a bad parent, when I think a lot of people don't even notice. You're so tuned into your baby that to you the screaming is so intense and overwhelming and triggers that emotional response. But for most other people in Albert Heijn, they're probably not they probably don't notice it that much. So yes, how people worrying about how other people perceive me is definitely a big one. Not just in terms of you want people to think that your child is well behaved, but also, maybe this is just me, but I really like to be put together. I like to come across like I've got my shit together, like I've got a cute outfit on, etc., etc. So I feel more the need to like almost dress up and like feed into this like yummy mummy image that I was just complaining about earlier. So I'm absolutely part of the problem, but I do like, putting on something cute and pretending like I'm a yummy mummy. So when I'm a mess the rest of the time.
So going further into this, our self-image is also a prevalent topic when it comes to Matrescence. Have you actually noticed yourself embracing how you are, loving yourself? Because I mean, your Instagram posts to me have shown that you have. I mean, you've really posted stuff out there was like, I feel empowered, like I've birthed, I've given this is my body, I'm blessed with this vessel. Like that's how it comes across to me. So I'm just wondering, for you, has this experience changed your sense of self?
Yeah, definitely at the beginning, I felt so amazed by my body and everything I could do, and really embracing it and like loving like soft, wobbly belly and all this kind of stuff. And then it kind of took a dip that I was like, oh no, I hate my new body. I don't like the way I look. I've just been going through this whole like fashion crisis, because when you're breastfeeding, everything that you wear has to be breastfeeding accessible. So I feel like I'm wearing the same 3 outfits over and over for 6 months now. And then also when I was pregnant, I was just living in leggings. So and I hear this so often from mums, like trying to find their new sense of style after you've had a baby is such a thing. So yeah, I had a bit of a dip in my confidence. And then actually recently, like 2 weeks ago, one of my cool friends had a baby. So I was texting her and I was like, oh yeah, this is my birth story. This is how the first few months are, just explaining it. This is how our breastfeeding journey went. And that process of like sitting down and writing everything out made me be like, oh my gosh, my body has done phenomenal things in the last year. Like, how can I be annoyed that I need to buy a one size bigger jean? Why does that matter when I've done so many other incredible things? And at the very least, my body and the way that I look is not the most important part. I've got so much more to offer than just the label in the clothes that I wear. So I've just been going through this process of coming back and gaining confidence and feeling proud.
So when you said the yummy mummy, do you think that's something that's been integrated into you from society over the decades that we've lived?
Yeah, probably.
So this is like literally growing up as a child. You're like, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. And it's so impregnated into you that decades on, when you're a confident person and you give birth, all of a sudden this tiny little memory is like just sprung forward and is like, hey, don't forget about this.
Yeah. I mean, as women, we're just bombarded our whole lives, right? With ideas of what we should look like and how thin we should be and how flat our stomachs should be. And like, I grew up in the era of like the thigh gap, all of that stuff. So honestly, if I could just look in the mirror and feel neutral about my body, I feel like I'm already winning when you've had that much negative programming thrown at you your whole life.
Yeah. What I also liked about your story, what you just said, is that it helped you to write these things down, to see them. So I think this is also a big factor, that journaling and writing these things down, seeing them on paper, going back to them and really dig into this helps so much. Because when you're in those doubts and in those like self-bathering thoughts and I'm not good enough and I should be less and I should be more this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you can have this as your anchor and be reminded of it, like, this is also there and has also happened and this is also worthy and this is also who I am and this is also what happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was going to say something and now my mind's gone blank.
And this again.
Well, while you're thinking, one thing I do want to say is, like, when we were in our group many years ago after giving birth, the thing for me, I think, was the comparison element. You're in a group of people and this mother is like, oh yeah, I've gone back to cycling because that's what I want to do. Or I've gone jogging and I'm 6 weeks, postpartum. And I'm thinking, I can barely function. And then it's that comparison thing of, but we're all in this together, aren't we? And then you feel like I couldn't feel more divided.
Yeah, I'd really felt that around like the between 3 and 4 months, because at the beginning, I feel like there's this, everyone around you accepts like, okay, you're going to be a mess. Like the house is going to be messy and my hair's not going to be washed, etc., etc. And then when you get to 3 months, it started to feel like I should be getting out and about more. And all this messaging of like, oh, you only have 18 summers with your children. And all of that, I really felt like I had to get out and about more. And it was too much for my baby because he, just like me, he likes to be at home. Doesn't really like to be out and about. He does get overwhelmed and you're trying to like force it and like get out in the car and in the pram, and then he's screaming and it's summer, so it's hot and I can't handle the heat, and you're also tired and you also haven't been sleeping. And then at some point I was like, why are we doing this? Why does it matter that we're like going out to the pool or going to the beach or whatever it might be? So we had to let go of that really quickly. So yeah, I know what you mean, that pressure of like, I need to be making the most of it, especially because you only have a certain amount of time off work and the maternity leave here is so short that I certainly felt a sense of I need to get out and make the most of this time, instead of being like, no, making the most of this time is resting and spending time one-on-one with my baby. He doesn't care where we are. He just wants us all to be together.
Just to note the beach story, my daughter was 3.5 by the time she reached a beach here in the Netherlands. Because I felt like you, I was just overwhelmed with people going, oh yeah, we spent the day at the beach or whatever. And I was like, I can't even get on the metro to get that train to go to Zandvoort or wherever. It was like, I couldn't believe it. And then it was like, it took me till this year to be able to take my daughter there because I was like, we have to do this. We've never done this. I feel like a failure. And then, yeah, when we get there, yeah, it's like, it didn't matter when we brought her out there. She was happy. So
yeah.
But yeah, those comparisons are hard.
Yeah. And like making memories all the time.
Oh my God, the endless list of, oh, don't forget to put your child's handprints on that thing you're going to put around your Christmas tree. Or don't forget to put your children's feet into a block of cement to put out in your garden. Or, don't forget to measure your kid on the wall. It's just nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah, really. And why do you need to have, like, if I would measure his handprint every month, then what? I've just got like stacks of bits of pottery with his handprint in it. I'm not going to look at that. Maybe I'll look at them like once every 5 years and be like, oh, so cute and small, but it's not enriching my life.
That's fair. I just think, these content creators just create content just for the sake of creating content.
Well, they do, don't they? Yeah.
I wonder if they just throw them out then. It makes me wonder. No, you can't be that evil.
Well, thank you so much, Harriet, for this check-in with us. I think we have talked about a lot of the layers of Matrescence, and it was very helpful for us to hear your experience and also see firsthand this is how it looks like, all these theories that we're talking about and all the things that we read in the book. And then, this is how it looks like. This is how a person goes through this. This is what the change look like. This is what the restructuring looks like. So that was very, very helpful. And again, hearing from you that no one is alone in this. Everyone can experience this, go through this, and know that as individual as we are and as our children are, at the end of the day, there is always going to be someone out there who has experienced this, who is happy to share this and make you feel less alone in this whole crazy ride of parenting. So thank you so much for spending the time and also share your experiences with the listeners and with us. And I'm sure we will hear you back then in a year later, or like in 6 months later. So when we have a year check-in then.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's also been such a nice process to like sit down and reflect for myself and my own well-being. Like I just said, it all becomes so normal. Everything that I've been doing the last 6 months, it becomes so normalized because you're doing it day in, day out. And then when I sit down and have these conversations, or when I dig a little deeper within myself, it's like, oh my gosh, I've really done amazing things. So proud of myself.
As you should be.
Thank you.
And as everyone out there should be going through this crazy journey. And if you want to hear more insights on other people's experiences and all the experts talking about different topics and aspects of parenting, then make sure that you subscribe to our channel on Instagram, Damn Parenting Podcast, where we put out more information, a little bit about the people who we bring on, and a little bit of extra information to the episodes. Also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you activate the bell so you get a notification when we are dropping a new episode. If you want to support us, then make sure that you like and subscribe, but also share this episode with anyone who you think needs to hear this information, needs to know that they're not alone going through this, needs to know that this is normal, so you can stop Googling, is this normal? So we have built up an amazing library of knowledge for you, so you feel a little more secure and can lean a little more onto this knowledge that we put together for you with the Damn Parenting Podcast. And we will hear you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.